Hey friends, welcome back to the Reasoned Reality Podcast. My name is Joe Smith. I'm your host. Today I've got with me former Major League Baseball player Ryan Kalish, and I'm so excited to jump into your story. Well, let's just jump into it then. So what was your upbringing like? I know that there was church early on, or was that something that came later?
You know, I'm not a church guy. Even at a young age, I didn't really love the church. In fact, because it's like so interesting coming full circle, which we'll get to. Yeah. But I don't know, I just was a bit of a rebel my whole life from school, CCD, but sports was my thing. Yeah. Right. So, when I kind of like getting into my minor league career was where I really started like more so hearing different sides of religion, church, Jesus. There's a lot of devout Christians and religious guys who play the game. And I had my best friend was like really anti-religion. And he would like get in these like battles over the Bible and what this was and what that was. And me, I was just more of an observer. I didn't ever get involved because I didn't know. One thing I would say that bothered me about what I saw was the guys who would talk about Jesus would not really like transform. They'd go into the Sunday chapel. I don't know what they were doing in there. But the forgiveness for sins idea came. And I was like, man, these guys are kind of like, not all of them are really like faithful to their wife and they're not doing like the nicest things. Like, isn't like that's Jesus is like a good guy. He's about like transformation. So that was kind of like my history of what I knew about the church. Like I went to church if I had to, but I wasn't really into it. This is like a last 7 years post baseball, and it's quite a long story. But I don't know how you want to jump into it, but that's kind of like the background for me.
Well, church wasn't. I am curious because reading up on you and stuff, and then kind of seeing the injuries that you had to deal with, the surgeries, pretty significant surgeries. Did any of that, was that part of the whole story? And I don't mean to stereotype you at all, but, a lot of times it's those, you know what I mean? Like those moments where you're just like, this alters who I am, or this is going to change everything going forward. That kind of sparks some sort of like existential crisis of some kind for so many people.
Yeah. So, man, you're on the right track. I had 14 orthopedic surgeries. So I had a lot of fight in me. Pushed my body to a point of no return. I had to retire at 30 years old. And then I don't know, I don't really love telling all of the story, but basically I had a little bit of coming out of the game. I had a little problem with substance post, especially marijuana, a little bit of psychedelic drugs. But long story short, I had this experience where I felt like the soul of Jesus touched mine. I couldn't explain it because it wasn't, like I said, he wasn't a figure. I wasn't really into the Bible, but it came with a lot of I want to change the world, right? I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about him. I knew it was a bit of a rebel and he wanted to, he was standing up for poor people. And my whole life, even when I was 6 years old, my mom told me that I was walking down the street in Washington, D.C., and I saw homeless people on the street and the big buildings. And she said I got really mad for no reason out of nowhere. So it feels like it was coming no matter what, but the substance kind of really brought it to the surface for me. So that was the first time. And subsequently, let's say over the last 7 years, I've had that soul touching moment 3 separate times. And I could never quite actualize it into something actionable. So let's say 15, 16 months ago, I started really researching Jesus, just the guy, obviously through the Gospels and then outside sources. And because there's so much information, like Ethiopian Bible, where there's apparently books left out, whatever. And I just was this guy was about action. He's an action guy and I'm an action guy. So I took that first service trip and I was hooked. You know, I basically I was in America and I went over to Egypt and I started doing some work for the Palestinian families in a couple of churches around the area. And immediately I was like, oh my God, like this feels good, because coming out of baseball, I had a lot of anxiety, like it's like that transition. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? So now that I had that, I was hooked. Right. And then like you kind of alluded to, we get into my Instagram, but it's been 10, 11 months now of like every month I take a trip and I go help out the least of these. I mean, I'm pretty like well versed on the Bible, especially what Jesus said. I really focus in on that guy. And I just I'm like, okay, listen, if this guy said that we can do greater things, he's not really asking us to worship him. At least that's how I see it. He's actually saying, like, here's the mantle, take it. Like, I don't want this anymore. I'm about to die. So I kind of am like, okay, well, I have a real problem with the things I see in the world, politics, the system where people are being forgotten. So I'm going to start with the action and hopefully eventually get my voice more and more heard, because I do have a big problem with the things that I see, because if I'm embodying Jesus, like, unfortunately, not much has changed since he died. Like, the system's still the
Correct.
same. People
It
are
is.
still being oppressed. It's getting worse than ever, and we all have it on our phones. So like, I have a lot of pain and anger behind like what I do, but I just love to help people. So it's kind of like this transmutation of pain and anger into love. So
It's
that's,
almost like you're compassionate.
yeah,
Whenever I'll put on my pastor hat just for a quick second, but like in the
sure.
Greek, when it talks about compassion, it's a gut level response. It literally means to be moved by your bowels, because that was the seat of emotion. And
Mm,
so, like, anytime it talks about Jesus having compassion, it was a gut level response that,
sure.
like you just said, it's not like, oh, I feel sorry for them. It's no, I have to go do something about this. Like,
Yeah.
I can't just sit here and watch this. I got to go do something. And
Yeah.
so everything you just said just reminds me of, like, that's literally, you're literally living out the definition of compassion.
I'm trying my best, man. It's humanity. I feel like Jesus was, he was about humanity mostly.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't
I agree.
actually ever use the word he didn't use the word Christianity. He said the way. And I think what he was pointing to was like, this is the way humanity can come together. If we all transform like me, like, those are the sort of like,
Listen, you're preaching to the choir.
yeah. So anyway, it's like, yeah. And, I have like that competitive edge with the baseball. I want to be like, I kind of was saying the other day, like, I'm trying to be a major league Jesus follower. Like,
Well, let me
that's,
ask you a question. Since we
yeah.
alluded to it a few times, I find your Instagram fascinating.
Mm,
I find it fascinating on a couple different levels. Number one, just the sheer, like you said, humanity, the sheer humanity that's involved. And if people don't know what we're talking about, you have these reels where you're interacting with um, street people, unhoused people, like you said, the least of these in these different countries that
yeah.
don't have the safety nets that many people have here in the United States. As tenuous as those safety nets are right now, they're still there. Not that they're perfect, but you're
Mm,
in places where there is no safety net for people, and
no.
you're interacting with them. And here's what really struck me. I've seen videos kind of like that before, where somebody comes along and they're helping somebody, and it feels very performative. It's like they're doing a good thing, but they're doing it for the views or the likes. And I'm not, like, judging somebody's intent or whatever. I'm just saying this is how it comes across. What struck me about yours, though, was that it watching it, it feels like somebody just happens to catch this interaction between two people.
Mm,
Because you're not and I'm not trying to puff you up or anything. I'm just saying, when I watch this, right? Because you're not pandering to whoever's the video. You are present with that person. And
yeah.
one of the videos, like really touched me, was you gave something to someone, and I can't remember who it was, but I believe that then they gave you a blessing. and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
all sat there together while this person like prayed this blessing over you in their language and stuff. And I just found that like super touching, and that you would accept that blessing, because the systems that I came from would have been like, well, that's a that's not a Christian blessing, so it's the devil. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
it was a very human interaction, and it was very beautiful.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I just feel like, again, I feel like Jesus is a part of all the religions. I don't think he's not on any team. He's in humanity's team, and he says, love God and love your neighbor. He doesn't specify like how you have to love God, but as long as you love your neighbor, those things kind of go hand in hand. So like, we don't like, there's missing years in Jesus's life. I've heard stories about him in India. I've heard stories about him in Ethiopia. I've heard story like whatever. I just think like this guy, he would not like come back and say, you have to be Christian to get to heaven.
Mhm.
He would say, like, are you loving God in however you want? Or more so, are you loving your neighbor? And that's like it. Like, I don't think he would go as far as to say you need to pick a team to do it. So, and also there's like esoteric teachings that say one of like when Jesus was serving, he was praying. And so that's how I pray. Like that's my church. When I'm on the street and there, I appreciate what you said because I don't even love that I have to film, but I feel
Yeah.
like I have to film these days. Like we're so far disconnected from the real man. That's a part of what I want to show. And yeah, like I've seen a lot of other videos too. Everyone's doing amazing work. There's a lot of guys, but I don't do like social experiments. Like I'm not going to be like
Yeah.
faking being homeless or or being blind or something. Like for me it's like when I'm like we go around in a tuk-tuk in India. That's the last 4 trips that I've done. I've also, I've done Africa, the Middle East, but in India, we're on the tuk-tuk. And when I see, like, you see a person sleeping on the concrete, man, like, you're just like, I didn't even like, I didn't even know this existed for a long time in my life. And it's like, really? Like, this is the best humanity's got? Really? This is like the best we can do with all the great prophets literally saying the same thing. Like, Muhammad doesn't have a much different message than Jesus. Buddha, like not so different. Like don't like get attachments. Jesus saying like sell your possessions, give to the poor. Muhammad was all about humility and helping the poor. So they keep coming. We just don't catch on. And it's like it's frustrating with can we talk about America?
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
It's frustrating to see what America is doing because I feel like it could be so much more powerful if it actually embodied Christ to lift people up rather than to oppress people to take their things. It's really like, yeah. So like I said, man, I have like really strong opinions on a lot of this stuff. But right now for my Instagram, it's just like action, action, love, action, action. And then when I get moments on podcasts, that's kind of when I like to let it rip a little bit, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it's
I'm going to touch on something you said a second ago because I hadn't thought about it that way. You said that you even hate having to film, but you have to because we're all so out of touch with, so much that is taking place. You living outside the United States for so long, you
yeah.
probably have a pretty unique perspective, like growing up in it, playing ball in it, doing all of those things and then leaving and being where you are now. Do you think that I know this is kind of a crazy question, but being an American in a foreign land and
Mm.
seeing it from afar, do you think that that's just a people thing that we're all too busy or self-absorbed? And I don't mean that in necessarily a negative way, like guilt tripping people, but life is difficult, life is hard. Or do you think that's a uniquely like American trait or an American Christian trait that does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Do you think, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, like America's the greatest country in the world, the like all of that sort of thing, or you
well, I
mean
meant like, you said that you've got to film because we're all just so out of touch with so
yeah.
much suffering in the world.
It's-
Do you think
well,
that's
I
what I'm
think
talking
what
about? Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't think it's strictly I think it's oh man, I don't want to go too hard, but I kind of like have these deep feelings. I feel like religion is very out of touch with the actual things that Jesus asked. I think Same. It's not that different for Hindus, which I have a lot of experience with. It's not that different from Muslims. I mean, these guys were all consistently saying like humility, less possessions, less materialism. Let's take care of each other. It's very plain in my eyes. And then when you go to like the tribalism of the world, which is kind of what you're alluding to, I'm not tribal. I'm a man of the world. I've seen the world. I've lived in Indonesia. I've lived in Indonesia for 4 years. Muslim country, never dealt with any problems, and then Thailand's like kind of Muslim. And then spending time in India, it's a melting pot of Christians, Muslims, Hindus, like there's all the religions in this place. And, when you get down to it, it's not really like, yeah, I mean, of course, like there's some common folks that might have beef with each other, issues, but overall, it's like, it's government stuff, man. And using these ancient books as tools of oppression rather than what they're supposed to be is like liberation and like unification. They're like, the messages to me are very clear. And yeah, sure, you can go into the Bible and find something where it's going to tell you to go like, this is your land. You have the right to take it. It's in all of those books. But like, if we ever want to find, all right, so I don't believe in heaven or hell. I think it's like soul reincarnation. I think we have the opportunity to create heaven or hell right here on earth. And right now we're not doing so good, not for everyone. And I'm like, I want to fight for them. I kind of want to grow my voice, I guess, into like I don't know, civil rights, whatever, from the way I can see it, like, we're really not doing the things that the greatest people on earth asked us to do. We like to worship those folks, and we like to use those folks as tickets to heaven in the afterlife, where it's like, man, we're in the life right now and we could
Yeah.
make this so much better. Like, we really, really could. I can feel that, and I think Jesus felt that. I think he was like, that's why it was so hard for him. Like throughout the book, this guy is not a very calm guy. He's going through emotional pain dealing with humanity because he can see the potential. He's got the potential and he's doing the work. And he's just like, we can make this better. And like, it was really hard for him to feel the resistance, which is something that I really feel as well. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just like transmuting most of my pain and compassion just into action because, I want to grow something out of it. I'm not really sure where it's heading, but I love what I do. And like, I'm an athlete. Consistent action is really good for my nervous system.
Yeah. You just said something there that reminded me. I don't know if you've ever read anything by Richard Rohr. But
No.
he's a Christian mystic. He's a Franciscan monk, Catholic priest. And although most of the time, the Catholicism hasn't really claimed him very well. But one of the things that he said, and I'm going to butcher this quote, but it was basically, all great religion is what we do with our pain. We either transform it or we transpose it. I think that's how he said it. But basically it's like we either transform it or we just kind of bleed that pain onto other people. And that's what came to my mind when you just said that. Like, you're experiencing this pain for humanity, and rather than just lashing out at the things, like, you're actually doing something about it. Even if it's just one person at a time, right? You're just doing something about it.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I mean, somebody mentioned to me the other day, like, like it's like you're doing triage work. And I was like, well, if you haven't noticed, I think humanity is in triage right now. So like, and until like, I mean, who knows, right? We never know. I don't know if Jesus is going to come out of the sky and save us. I highly doubt it. I think it's up to us. But until the heart, that transformative heart of Christ kind of bleeds its way into the system, we're kind of going to be stuck in that triage. Like, people are going to need help on the streets because, I know there's more empty, houses or apartments, whatever, than there are homeless people, but we just don't, we don't care enough. The bottom line, especially the system and the people running the show, they don't care enough.
Yes. Nope. I get accused often of, like, when people hear my teachings or whatever, not here locally where, I'm
Mm,
involved with stuff, but like if somebody watches online or whatever, or sees a clip, I'm often accused of not talking about personal sin very much and talking about systemic sin way too much.
mm,
And I do that specifically because the church historically has over focused, like hyper focused on personal sin and turned it into this morality issue rather than a like how it's used. I mean, if you want to use the New Testament, right? Like you've kind of just lost your way, right? Like you've missed the mark. You've strayed from the path. Get back on the path, right? But it's the systems, right? Like why are you yelling at me about something that maybe I can fix or maybe I need to work on? Yes. But why are we not talking about the structures? I mean, literally, Jesus
mm.
talked about that stuff so much. The New Testament talks about that stuff so much.
Yeah.
When he says, the world's going to hate you, it's not us, it's not people, it's
Yeah.
structures. That's literally what that means, is how we've ordered our world. It's going to hate you because you're not participating in those systems that do oppress, that do take advantage of, that do hoard. So I'm curious, from
Sure.
your perspective, being outside the United States,
Mm.
if you could write a letter to the church, what would you say? Like if we're talking like New Testament style, like you're going to go Paul on somebody.
Wow.
I am curious because like I'm in the middle of it. I have really strong opinions.
Yeah.
My church knows this. I don't hold back. I mean, like yesterday, I just called out the pedophiles in our government and the ones
That's
protecting
good.
them. Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
so like my people are used to that type of stuff, but you're removed. You're not like in it. Like you can see the bird's eye view where we're just kind of like
Mm.
stuck in it. I'm curious what you're seeing, what you think.
I would say this, I would say to the church, like, I've thought about this quite a bit. I'd be like, what I would wish for the church to start doing is to start its own movement where, let's say you go to church 4 times per month. Instead of going 4 times, half the time, organize events where instead of you meet at the church and you go out onto the streets and you take the money that you would be giving there and you take them and you guys organize events to help the people on the street and talk about it, post about it, whatever. You don't have to take like the action shot, but like put that message out to the world. Because again, I really, I know Jesus said something in the Bible about like, on this rock, I build my church. Well, I would say like, if you really think he meant the Vatican, mega churches, private jet pastors, I think you've lost your mind. Like,
I would
that's
agree.
what I would say. And then, yeah, I mean, I could keep going, but like,
Please.
the
I
Jesus
asked.
the Jesus jewelry business model drives me absolutely insane. And the reason why is because, if like that, most of that gold or diamonds or silver has been dug out of the earth by the least of these and then been put into just a symbol of like, if Jesus came back and saw that, he'd be like, why are you wearing like that thing I died on
Mhm.
your chest? And like, where did you get it from? Oh, you got it from those poor miners in the Congo who have no running water, no electricity. Like, wake up, man. You didn't listen to what I said. Like, sell your treasures, like it's all there. It's in plain sight. And I'm just like, what happened? Like,
I
how
agree.
did what happened? Like, yeah, so that would be my letter. I'd have to like obviously maybe make it a little more professional, but I just see, yeah, I see too much hypocrisy. And it's not just the church,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's all over, there's a ton of stuff in the Hindu scriptures about taking care of people. And a lot of times, people are donating millions of dollars to just build another temple. And it's like, humans are the temple. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within and among. That means that we're all a part of God. I don't think he said, yeah, like I and the Father are one. But I think what he was saying was, if I and the Father are one, if the kingdom of God is within and among, love your neighbor and love God. He's just saying we're all one. We're all a part of the
Mhm.
creation. And if we ever really realized that and that ideology made its way into the system and we got a little less tribal, we didn't have to lose our cultures and our beauty from all over the world. But like, we could create heaven on earth. I don't care what anyone says. I'm so tired of that. This is just the way it is. It's like, no, like, it's not
Yeah.
just the way it is.
I totally agree. There's a book by Walter Brueggemann called The Imag Prophetic Imagination. Yeah, that's it. And he talks about that. He talks about the reason that people say that thing is because, or they push back against that because they've just lost the ability to imagine. And of course I'm butchering this, but they've lost the ability to imagine that heaven on earth.
Sure.
And
It's the system.
even yeah, and just kind of beaten down by the system and just almost
Yeah.
giving up.
So another bird's eye view thing I've said to people recently, and it hits them pretty well, is like, the United States has a strong currency everywhere except the United States, right? And like, so it's true. It's like, yeah, everywhere except the United States. You can come to Thailand and live an amazing life, but like, people want to be close to their families. I respect that. Like, I'm not encouraging like leaving the US, but it's just like, when it comes to all of these ideas you and I are talking about, like I've had the unique privilege to have time to actually like sit back and, honor my soul and my spirit and say like, where does it want to go? Whereas like so many Americans, and not just Americans, but people all over the world are just struggling to pay the rent, get the next meal for their kids, anything. So they don't have time to like fight the system. Like you said, they're so beaten down. How are they going to like, so yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's like more and more of, I don't know, new, like speaking out, thought leaders. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. One of the things
So
I'm curious about, especially with your experiences, being outside the United States, doing the stuff that you're doing, you mentioned beforehand that your family's asleep because you're in Thailand right now. So
yeah,
you're 12 hours ahead of us. So it's your night and my morning. I'm curious what you see the differences. Like you're raising we don't have to get into your family, but you're raising your child or children. I don't remember which.
I have one kid.
Okay, so you're raising them outside of the United States, outside of that whole culture and
Mm.
stuff. Do you notice like just comparing maybe like your childhood or what you experienced growing up versus what your child is experiencing growing up, how that's different? And I know obviously it's going to be different, but I mean like maybe how it's shaping their worldview versus how ours are shaped here in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, there's no systemic pressure. There's no friends or family pressure on how we want to do anything. My daughter is exposed to all sorts of different cultures from all over the world. Here in Thailand, there's a lot of Russians. In Indonesia, it was such a melting pot. She was born in Indonesia. Now she lives here. Also, my wife is French, so she's already fluent in 2 languages. And, she doesn't like, I don't know, she doesn't know about the world yet, really, but she just like, she has a lot of friends. Like she's met, all right, like her nanny was Indonesian, the first one. So she started speaking Indonesian and like got love from her. And then now she has a Thai nanny and like she'll be going to a Thai school, but it's like Waldorf school. So we're really going like supernatural with that, like just letting things play out. But like she knows so many cultures already. She's already like picking up Russian words and she can interact in such a way where the language doesn't even matter. But yeah, one of the things that is, I kind of need to say it, but it's true. Like I want to take my wife and daughter to America. And right now my wife is petrified of this country of ours. She's scared because everything on the news is terrifying with this ICE stuff, with, I mean, there was a shooting in Austin last night. We were talking about going to Texas, and like I want to take my parents live in Arizona, and like it's probably going to happen, but I don't even feel like it's that safe, Like out here, there's no people with guns walking around ever. I mean, we don't see guns. We don't hear, there's no shootings. There's no bombings. There's no tension out in most of the rest of the world, but the news that America is obviously now the Middle East just fired up again, which is, not something I feel like getting into, but yeah, it's just like the fear of of what's going on in America. It's real. They are projecting the fear, and the rest of the world most of it is pretty chill.
When people discover that you're American, Do they talk about that? Do they ask like, what in the world is your country doing? What are they doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Everyone
I
thinks,
have people message me and they're like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I always tell them, please tell everyone you know that we're all not insane and
yeah.
we're sorry for what our country is doing to the world. Like I say that constantly. And I'm curious what your experience is being there outside of it.
Oh God. That's a lot of like the response that I get when I'm like, well, I haven't been there in 6 years, but like, the thing is like most of the common folks everywhere are amazing.
Mhm.
You have like a few, but then it's all about the leadership, and the leadership
Yeah.
has their own agendas. And, I mean, before some would probably call me a conspiracy theorist, but now I'm kind of seeming pretty correct. I think there's systems above the system that we don't even know about. The leaders, Trump is a puppet. He feels pretty compromised by other people. And I don't trust him. He's not doing a whole lot of what he said he was going to do before he got in. So yeah, and it's like I just think like war is not going to make peace. It's not
No.
like
No.
like again, we just got to go back to like a lot of the greatest people that ever lived, like Jesus, Martin Luther King, these guys. Like, but yeah, I don't know, man. People are still so open minded to obviously realize like there are a ton of good people in the United States, but the leaders are what they are.
No kidding. Well, let me ask you this. I want to circle back around to it. You kind of brought up, Jesus and Dr. King, and you've talked about, the Buddha and Muhammad, and I agree that I 100% agree that the core tenets of all of these major wisdom traditions are a lot alike. There's a lot of similarity there. And one of the things, I think one of the biggest problems in the United States is how weaponized Christianity has become by white nationalists. And
Hmm.
they just, they use it as a cover. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, I love the fact that you're outside of all of this, because I never get to have a conversation with somebody that spent significant time away.
Yeah, sure.
Because almost everybody I talk to is like in the middle of it, right?
Sure.
And so I'm curious from your perspective, from outside all of it. Like you mentioned the fact that your church is being in the street, which I love. I love that. But what am I trying to ask here? I guess it's like just your observations. Like, I see it. We all know what's happening. But from all the way across the other side of the world, where
Yeah.
you're out there on the street and you're one-on-one with people, and then you see these religious leaders in the United States literally running cover for the worst people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, what are my observations? Well, man, it's a tough one, but I think like we just have to really understand. I think that love is really the only thing that's going to fix this. And like the sort of forgiveness that Jesus embodied, because, like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, like you said about like weaponizing Christianity, and like weaponizing, let's say, Islam. And then it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, we can go, where did it start? But who cares where it started? Because we're here. And if we don't embody that forgiveness and just like really show up with like fresh love, because like how many people would be absolutely Americans would be absolutely petrified to walk up to a full burqa'd woman anywhere in the world because of what they've been told, because
Mm.
they, like the leaders have weaponized like all the
Yeah, just that
movies,
indoctrination.
Islam. It's like, yeah, it's in all the movies. Islam is bad. Islam is the terrorists. Well, like, no, man. Like, there's like, sorry to say, but there's terror being caused on each other all of the time. It's been going on for many years now. And until we have that aha moment of like, because like, what do I just refuse to believe the idea that if all of a sudden, America was like, you know what, we're just done. We're going to come in with love and we're going to help these people like all over the world, all of the, like, they call them Islamic radicals. We're going to actually show up with love and help them. I refuse to believe that they would still try and kill if they felt the love.
And listen,
I don't think it would be the way that it
yeah,
would go.
I have often said, what would happen if instead of sending tanks and bombs, we built roads, schools, and hospitals?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm an
Yeah.
American. American right now is dropping bombs. Well, I'm dropping blankets and beds. And like, that's what it's going to take, not this crap that's going on. It's not
Yeah,
going to
so let's
work.
talk about that again. Let's circle it back around because I love that idea. Instead of dropping
Yeah.
bombs, you're dropping blankets. I actually love that. I don't know if you came up with that before or came off the top of your head, but that's
I
a
thought,
great
no,
T-shirt.
I've been thinking about it. I go in sauna and I'm a big sauna
Yep.
guy. It really chills me out with the things I've seen, stuff going on in the world. And I thought about that. And I'm like, I'm an American, while America's dropping bombs, I'm an American civilian dropping blankets. Like, I'm often like, there's a little ego there, but I'm like, when am I going to get heard? Because I have a message, like I have an
Hmm.
important one, like being an American that's gone outside the echo chamber. Like you said, I think if America wanted to go into, there's a 30-year genocidal war going on in Congo right now because everyone's like fighting over the minerals for all the technological advancements. America could go in there, and the big corporations who have made such profits off of the backs of these people, and they could give them,
Hmm.
fresh homes, infrastructure, water, food, plenty of resources, healthcare, more safety equipment, and like really, you're not going to have enough money back home, really. You're going to have plenty still. There's enough here for everyone. So, yeah, that was I thought about that line before. It just kind of came out naturally about the beds.
No, no,
And
no, I like it. It's great. It's great. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about you dropping blankets. When did that start? I mean, like you mentioned like you went
yeah,
on this one trip and then you just got hooked. But I've been on some of those kinds of trips before, but what made you like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do now? Like I'm just going to keep doing this.
yeah. Well, I went on that first trip and then I got connected with a Congolese refugee who lives in Uganda. He's 20 now. His name is Shabani Chani. A big shout out to this kid. Yeah, he's built himself quite an audience, couple million followers on TikTok, whatever. But like he feeds the street kids. There's kids all over the street in Uganda. It's absolutely horrific. And so I went to visit him. We worked together. And then, yeah, I mean, I just was like, yeah, he kept encouraging me to do it. And like I said, like on my first couple of trips, it was kind of like not about the filming, but then I realized like the social media is gonna help me to raise money, get on podcasts, talk about what I'm doing, whatever this is gonna turn into. It needs to be documented these days. Like it's not going to
Yeah.
have the same impact. And it's funny, kind of going back into the Bible briefly. I know there's like it's interesting because it's in back to back books where Jesus says like don't show what your left hand
Hmm.
is doing to your right, but then in the next book he says share your good works with others so that your Father in heaven can be glorified. So like I was like feeling weird about the filming, and then I'm like, wait, it looks like he would probably be filming too at this point. Like he would,
Yeah.
if you want to start like getting your ideology and your stuff out, whatever. So I just, like I said, at some point I said, I'm an influencer of some sort, I guess. Like this is just going to be me. So it kind of happened naturally through him. And then, in India, I have like a pretty solid team around. And I even did some in America earlier this year. I was in America. I was in Austin. And I was feeding the guys out there, filming a little bit of it. And like I said, I'm planning like a pretty significant swing through the States in April,
That's
late
awesome.
March, early April to do
Yeah.
more and get the word out. So
So
yeah.
on these trips, do you end up going back to the same places consistently, or is there like a rotation? How do you work that out?
So, financially, I do have a running business that sustains me and my family. But at the same time, with the bigger travels to like Africa, I needed to pull from savings. Like I realized as well, like if I'm going to invest that money in helping, I need to document this because,
Mm,
or else it's like this lost investment. So right now in India, I've been going to the same city for a few reasons. I have like the team in place. It's very cost effective. It's only a 3-hour flight from here.
mm.
So like in India to fly India to Thailand round trip and 10 days in a hotel is like $450. So it's so cheap. India is
That is
so,
cheap.
so it's so cheap there. And just like that city is like, it's not about, at least in my mind, like coming to America is very strategic for me because I'm a US citizen and I want to expand what I'm doing. But there was a part where I was like, yeah, I could keep going back to Africa, but it's like 3 times as expensive. And like, I need to I have a wife and kid,
Yeah.
responsibility is real. And I need to make sure that I take care of them. So India has been really working well. And so yeah, but I am, I'm coming to the US, but like I said, that trip is just crazy expensive right now. Like
Oh, I don't doubt it.
comparatively.
Yeah,
It's
I don't doubt
so
it.
great. Like I could feed 6 guys on the street in Austin. I mean, I was getting 7-Eleven sandwiches when I came, whereas that would cost me about 40, $50. Whereas 40 or $50 in India will get you like 2 or 3 beds, blankets, pillows for a person, food, water, and shoes. So like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's fine. In America, I'm still like not sure what I'll do. And it's more about obviously like the more I can help, the better. But it's like, again, it's just like,
Yeah.
America loves Jesus. I'm here to help connect us back to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Well, let me ask you this. I'm
yeah.
curious, do you have like a particular story that you like to share from your encounters there in India? Maybe there's a person you encounter all the time, or maybe there's, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like there's always these things that happen and you're just like, oh, dude, that was a little slice of heaven on earth, right? Like I'm curious if there's something that you kind of share with people to kind of show them this is what is actually happening. Like, yeah, I'm giving these things to this person that doesn't have, but there's like this human level connection.
So I want to talk about the prayer aspects because I've never been into prayer. Like I kind of said my whole life, I'm not a
Yeah.
guy. Like I do as I'm walking or whatever, I say some stuff here or there. More recently lately, because I really want to help the world in what I'm doing. But when you're like, you mentioned this video where you saw me accepting
Hmm.
the prayer and also like energy stuff. I've never been like huge into that. But every single time I walk into that situation and I receive a blessing, I leave with this charge that feels so good to my soul on like that like spirituality level that it's like it's addicting. Like, so anyone can do it. It doesn't even have to be in India. I mean, I'm in America, you get prayed for when you give those
Yeah.
those acts. And like I guess like, if you really want to like I guess, if you really want to connect to Jesus's spirituality and you go help someone with the least of these, it's like it's such a charge, that's like for me the thing that I would encourage like anyone. Those moments they're so powerful for your soul. Like it's accessible to all of us in the small, even if it's just small ways.
Yeah. I think one of the problems here in the United States is the fact of, we mentioned it before where so much of Christianity is weaponized to legislate and police
Yeah.
rather than to serve, right? And I know that there's a lot of people, because I have this conversation, my gosh, man, pretty much on the regular right now, is that people are
Yeah.
so tired. And I'm even tired of it. Like I said it to a friend. We went out, my wife and I went out to a friend with the really close couple that we're very close with. And neither one of them are Christian. One of them is atheist, but we share a lot of the same values. You know what I mean? And she was talking about how she's tired of hearing about Christianity in the United States because it's always in the forefront. These leaders are quoting scripture and then doing awful things. And they're using scripture to be like, well, the Bible says this, so we're going to make this decision. And it's just like, I know that's not how it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think people, regardless of where they stand on a spiritual kind of spectrum or whatever, are going to resonate with what you're talking about because it's less about theology in the
Yeah.
best possible way and more
Yeah.
about like, no, 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 no. What good is it if I see a brother or sister in need and I say to them, keep warm and well fed and then do nothing, right? Like
Yeah.
James, like, but you're
Yeah.
literally like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think action cuts through all of the noise, especially when you're not like it gives people a feeling of like a reminder of warmth, love. And then like if they do want to go into their own theology, it's like, oh well, that's what Jesus said to do.
Mhm.
Like it is what he said to do. And like obviously he was doing it in that triage level and hoping that it would make its way into the system, which is the same thing for most of us these days. I don't know, man. I guess in some ways I'm trying to step up as a leader. I don't know. These things happen naturally. They take their time,
Yeah.
and we'll see where everything shakes out. But I was a leader in the locker room in baseball, and I made a video today. I'll put it out soon, kind of like, because on my page I don't really have an about me thing, but it's like
Yeah.
the sooner we realize, like, we're all in the same locker room on the same field here, and we need to get like a little less away from all of this separation and more of this together, and like things would get better. But again, it needs to infiltrate into. Actually, can I share one more story? Because this
Yeah,
one,
man. Come on. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to put this video out soon too. So I was giving a lot of haircuts on this last trip. I cut like
Mm.
30 guys' hair who, have huge beards, hair, whatever. And so we were filming in this like really busy section, and there was always attention. People like shouting out the window, like, amazing job. This is in India, however,
Mm.
sometimes English, sometimes in a language, but you can feel the energy. And then all these kids came by from like what looked like a nice school. They had nice uniforms, nice shoes. It was a pretty poor area, but maybe there's a nice school. And they came up and said hi, and we gave fist bumps and talked a little bit. And I was thinking, like, that's the influence that I want to
Mm.
have, because we have no idea which one of those kids is going to grow up and become a politician. We don't know which one of those kids is going to grow up and own a huge corporation. It's a lot of money in India too. And maybe, just maybe, they'll remember today as a moment where they saw this weird foreigner cutting the poor guy's hair, and it inspires them to take all the access capital that their company is making into like a sustainable housing project for these guys. Or if one of them becomes the prime minister, they say, no, we're done with this corruption. We're taking care of things. And like, that's when I really realized, yeah, I'm filming. I don't like, I mean, this was like 2 weeks ago. I'm still like having that internal battle about filming. And that was like it for me. I'm like, no, I don't feel bad about filming. I don't care anymore, because this is the sort of influence that I feel is really needed right now. So those kids, like, I'm sure you have moments that stuck with you as a
Mhm.
kid. I do. And hopefully for one of those guys, that'll be it too. So
Yeah. I
that was,
I love that. Totally 100% agree with you. For me, it was my dad he went on a trip, much like you're talking about. He went with a group of dentists to Haiti, and
mm,
he said that the moment he stepped off the plane, he knew he was home. And
sure.
so over the last 30 years, they've built schools, and they've built medical clinics, and they do feeding programs and nutrition programs, because that's my dad's area of expertise is medicine. And yeah, and now, and the way that they set it up, it was all from the very beginning. It was all Haitian run, so they
Mm,
hired locals. You're talking about your team in India, much the same
yeah,
way. And so, like, even now, kids that when they first got down there, these kids are now school teachers, they're principals, they're nurses. And so, like you just mentioned, dude, I can remember when my dad told me that he was quitting his job at the hospital to do this full
mm,
time. And I was just like, are you insane? What are you talking about? And like, I was just a dumb kid. What did I know?
yeah,
And 30 years later, man, who knows how many lives have been
sure.
saved,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
things
yeah, yeah,
like that. For us, like, I can go to the store and get Pepto Bismol, but if you're in one of these villages and you get diarrhea, holy cow, good luck.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like, you just never know where one of these stories is going to land and like alter somebody's worldview.
It's funny. You just said, like, when your dad did that, you felt like, oh, he was insane. Well, guess who else that happened to? Jesus. So
Oh
what
yeah,
happened to Jesus? His family, the story, it's there.
that's true.
He had
That's true.
like, I really believe that actually in many ways, the Bible, the New Testament stories about Jesus is a spiritual awakening, like, book, because there's a lot, like, whenever somebody starts wanting to give away their money and help people, society will say you're insane. Now, that's what Jesus went through.
That's
It's
true.
exactly what he went through. So it's sad that, like, that it's insane. Not that like, obviously, like there has to be responsibility with it. But again, when you go back to the systemic issue is like, I don't know, you and I are American white guys.
Yeah.
We have so much potential opportunities and privilege that so many people will never even sniff.
Yep.
And it shouldn't be that way, especially if you are someone in leadership who claims to follow Jesus. You should be working for them. That's it.
Yes. Amen. Please and thank you.
Yeah.
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 Well, hey, Ryan, I wanna honor your time. I know it's getting late over there.
Good, man.
I really appreciate the hour that you've spent with us. I'm curious to kind of land the plane. If you could just give a message to people that are going to be listening here in the United States from someone, halfway around the world, watching from the distance, but also kind of doing the really hopeful work that you're doing, what would that message be?
Yeah, find a way to love each other, forgive each other. I know there's a lot of division politically and things, and like just, try and really tap into those beautiful messages that Jesus and other great leaders left behind for us. Like I really firmly believe that like we all are capable of the love that Jesus had. And the more that we can actually even for a second believe that from time to time is the starting point. So, be compassionate with each other and always just really remember like this is what they want. They want vision. They don't want us on a team.
Yes, that's
So
very true.
the more we can get back to being a team, because again, at the end of the day, whether you're in America or anywhere else, we're all on the field in the locker room together. Even when you're at your home separate, you're still on the planet Earth as one team. So the more we can move past that and, heal one relationship at a time based on like a divisive political move or anything and just get back to love, better off we're going to be.
Thank you guys for following along. I hope that wherever you are today, that you are having the exact day that you need. Don't forget, friends, you may be the only voice of reason that somebody hears today, so don't be afraid to use it. All right, friends, until next time.